What's up, guys? This is Pete, the Carrot Man, and welcome back to the Carrot Poker Podcast. Coming at you today with something a little bit different. I decided that we would lighten the mood, so to speak, because we've been doing an awful lot of me just ranting at you guys with heavy theoretical stuff. So today we are starting up a new series, not to replace the old series, but to run parallel to provide a little bit of, hopefully, humour and entertainment. And this series is going to be called Ask the Coach. And it's an essential ingredient to Ask the Coach is that I have one of my students on here to actually ask the coach. And so I've got my friend and student Steve with me today. How's it going?
Yeah, hi there.
And Steve, we've been working together for quite some time now, like a good few months, right?
Yeah. So I was just looking back to see how long ago it was. September, October, something like that.
Cool. Time sure flies.
It does, yeah.
So let's just introduce you. What games do you play?
I play online tourneys on PokerStars, low stakes, and I also play quite a lot of live cash 2 to 3 times a week with my son and my brother. They're both keen players as well, and I make a little bit of money, but I don't need it to make a living. The aim of the coaching really is to move up the stakes and see if I can make some serious money.
Yeah, cool. I mean, you're the first person that I've ever coached family in like an inclusive thing, because I coach you and I coach your son as well, which is pretty cool because like you're both in the same house and I do one and we do the other one.
Well, let's see if we can get you my brother as well. He needs some coaching.
I always need new students, so absolutely. You can get me your whole family, grandfathers, extended uncles, whatever you want, really.
Well, I've got a sister-in-law as well, and my daughter plays, but I don't think she'd take coaching very well.
Oh, that's a shame. I've never had a female student ever, and I've had like hundreds of male students. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, so Ask the Coach is all about, you've prepared a list of 5 to 10 questions. I think you told me you have 9, right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
And these are questions that I have not heard or seen before. Can you verify that this is indeed the case?
I offered to tell you them and you refused, so there you go.
Yep,
possibly. I'm going to catch you out now.
Yeah, possibly to my own downfall. I stubbornly said I don't want to know any of the questions in this show, so Steve could hit me with anything at all. His only instruction is that they should be related to poker. They shouldn't be like, do you prefer cantaloupe or watermelon? They should be things to do with actual stuff that listeners will be interested in. And hopefully some of them at least will echo the wonderings and ponderings of the audience to the Carrot Poker podcast as well. So without further ado, let's get started. I'll try and answer them as thoroughly as I can. Feel free to give me more questioning if you're not satisfied with an answer or you think there's good stuff to talk about in that topic. So let's go for the first question.
First question, right? And bear in mind, I'm a tournament player, not a cash player here. I know a lot of your students are cash players, so apologies for any ignorant cash questions here. But well, the first one's a general one. What are the 3 most important habits of successful poker players?
Wow. Okay, already making me list things. Right. Well, I would say I don't know if I can do these in order without actually having to think long and hard about it. But I'll give you 3 habits in no particular order that I think are super important. The first is just structured habitual review and seeking help from peers in that review. Like when I first started playing poker, I thought I was like a complete baller. I thought I was great because I would like soul read my friends who were terrible players sometimes, no offense to them if they're watching this, in our home games. And I thought I'm so good, so I started playing online poker without any help. And then I thought I'm so great that I can jump on a forum and I can just give people advice because I'm better than them, which is ridiculous. When I was a kid, I was like 20 years old. And then people started saying, this is terrible. Why did you do that? And I started getting really hurt about it. But when I actually started like realizing I was bad and going for advice in forums and just asking for help, things got a lot better. And when I started structurally reviewing my own hands in my database, and then if I reached something that I wasn't sure which conclusion to draw or where my analysis should go or whether my analysis was correct, I would refer it to a forum called Flop Turn River back in the day, which used to be a really thriving, awesome place to discuss poker. These days, most of my students learn, as you know, on the Carrot Corner group, which comes with coaching packages, and that's like, I guess, the place to go for my students these days. But there's always somewhere in a poker community that you can go and do that. So structured review and asking for help when you do that review is the first one. Number 2. Don't neglect your mental game. There's just so many players who have a lot of strategic potential and are very logical, but because they never quite got held under control, or they took 6-month gaps from the game because they got frustrated with downswings, or they just blew their bankroll or got scared, or cashed out their roll or something, and then because they don't ride through the variance, they don't work on their mental game, they never get to the point where they can put in volume long term, and I struggled with this for a long time as well. So number 2, definitely work on the mental game. There are tools out there like The Mental Game of Poker is a great book. I always have a segment with all of my students that need it. I think you're one of the more placid ones, Steve, who doesn't really have much in the way of tilt issues, but a lot of them.
Hopefully. I have tilted though.
Yeah, I mean, haven't we all? But most students do need some kind of mental game work going on at the same time as the technical game works. So don't neglect it. Don't be like, oh, I'm here to get coached for the technical game. I'm here because I need to improve my technical game. My mental game is fine. I very rarely get angry except for those times I blow my bankroll. Like, it's just, you're kidding yourself. You do need to work on it. And number 3, I'm going to go with the successful player has an active approach to studying poker, not a passive one. Too many people get nowhere because they think they're learning and they're not learning. They basically sit and watch a video or listen to a podcast like this one while they're driving or just before they fall asleep at night or whatever times people listen to podcasts, and they think that they're learning loads about poker, but really it's going in one ear and out the other a couple of days later. In order for something to be completely learned, it has to actually be applied, and you have to actually practice the process of using your brain to kind of create the neural pathways that actually will cause you to click the right buttons on the table. So those would be the 3 things. To summarize, sort of regular review of your own play with help from the community. Don't neglect your mental game, and yeah, that last one basically.
Yeah, the second point there, the mental game. That's something I know I neglect, but as you say, I'm quite peaceful and placid, and I don't tilt. I do tilt sometimes, quite spectacularly. But the book you said to the book, is that the Jared Tendler book? Is it?
Jared
That's
Tendler.
the one.
Yeah.
So okay, I'll get down. I bought the book. You'll be ashamed to know. Your point 3 there, active approach. I've bought the book, but I haven't read it.
Yeah, and even if you do read it, the book is very much about not just being too passive. There are a lot of exercises in it, so he's obviously a believer as well that you need to be active in order to fully learn things. So it's not just that you sit and read it and your mental game improves. You have to do certain exercises, like make lists of the types of tilt, formulate logical things you can say to your subconscious to diffuse those types of tilt, and there's lots of exercises basically.
Excellent.
Okay, next question.
Next question, right. What is the most often badly played starting hand in your opinion?
All of them. Can I say that? Okay, let me think of this.
You've got to pick one.
It depends which level of player you're talking about. I would say for a beginner, hands like ace king, pocket jacks, people feel really uncomfortable with these types of hands, and they either do ridiculous things with them as beginners, just shove huge overshoves for no reason, or they limp ace king because it's just a trouble hand or whatever. Beginning players have a lot of misconceptions and weird kind of fears about hands that they feel uncomfortable with, mainly hands that don't always flop well but can be really good but can also be terrible. You can get stacked a lot when you have jacks, right? Hands like that. But if I had to say moving up in the skill level to the kind of people that I coach, the worst played hands are probably things like ace jack, ace queen, king queen. People don't understand when they should be. There's so many ways you can play these hands in cash pre-flop depending on the situation. For example, there are times when you should always flat, like ace jack offsuit, king queen offsuit. I'll go with those 2 as my staple. For example, someone opens late position and they have a high fold to 3-bet, so you want to have a polarized 3-bet strategy against them, and these hands just play really well. They dominate their opening range, like big blind versus button. The guy's folding 75% to a 3-bet after opening, so you should always flat a hand like king queen there, and you should 3-bet hands that are too weak to call with and maximize your EV with your whole range by playing more hands overall. But people will just 3-bet there and not understand why they're doing it. Or there are other times when you do want to 3-bet those hands for value and people don't do it enough. Like a fish opens under the gun for min open and the fish is 55-30. You should always 3-bet king queen off there. You need to bloat that pot a bit. You need to isolate the fish. You need to gain the initiative to c-bet and win the pot post flop. Flop top pair top kicker. The more you reduce the SPR when that happens, the stack to pot ratio, the better for you. The more easily you can get money in and just stack his dominated holdings. Do make sure that the fish opens kind of wide, but definitely isolate, especially in position with these big Broadway kind of mediocre Broadway hands. And there's a third situation in which you want to 3-bet these hands as a bluff, which sounds crazy because I've just said sometimes you want to call, sometimes you 3-bet for value, sometimes you 3-bet as a bluff. If a tight player opens from early position, you can't flat these hands, but they can make excellent blocker hands and become the top of your folding range in the sense that they're most suitable to turn into a bluff due to their excellent double blocker power. So yeah, I'd definitely say the king, queen, ace, jack off kind of hands are the most misplayed pre-flop.
Excellent. No, good answer. Next question.
Mm-hmm.
I play a lot of tournaments, and I sometimes sit down and play cash live normally. Mm-hmm. And the two games are different, and I've discovered that in the last couple of years. So, advice transitioning between playing tournaments and cash, what are the key differences to be successful at both?
If you've not played cash, you've probably not played actual poker. I sound really biased because I'm a cash player, but it's probably the case that it's like you've played 5-a-side football, but you've never actually played an 11-a-side team or something like that. Like, it's that much of a difference. Cash is the real mechanics and the fundamental of the game, because you're playing 100 BBs deep and you get to experience all kinds of situations that you just hardly ever get into in tournaments against players who understand those situations a lot better. So the main differences are obviously stack depth. When you're deep, you have a lot more implied odds, and you need to change your holdings. You need to not be raising hands just to get money in because stacks are shallow like some people do in tournaments. I think tournament players are horrible players. No offense, Steve, I don't think you're a horrible player. But in general, compared to a cash player, I find that if I coach someone who's only played tournaments, their fundamental understanding is just really lacking in certain ways. And one of them is that they just overplay hands for no reason. In cash, like if someone's betting at you, c-betting at you, cutoff versus big blind, and you just have top pair, decent kicker, raising is just not anything we ever do there, because we want to strengthen our calling range. We're so deep, we don't want to stack off 100 BBs deep with just like one pair very often in cash games, unless we are the ones value betting against fish or something, or we're just calling down against someone super aggro. But overplaying hands is a big deal. Like in cash, you have to play hands a lot more slowly, especially in position. You have to do a lot more calling and a lot less raising for protection. Protection is a thing in cash, betting for protection, but we don't typically in cash like raise all the time just for the sake of protecting our equity, when that can lead to a horrible swing where our villain only continues with lots of better hands if we do that, and we're just getting stacked with, too deep with marginal holdings. Sorry, how many things did you ask for? Was it just a few differences?
No, that's good.
Okay, I'll give you a couple more really quickly. I think that in cash games as well, there's a lot more of a pre-flop 3-bet, 4-bet, 5-bet dynamic, and you need to get very comfortable playing your range in cash. Like, you need to be very aware of the common situations, and you need to know, against the reg, when I open cutoff and get 3-bet by the button, what's my opening range, how wide is it, how much of it am I calling, what are plus EV calls, what am I 4-betting for value by default, and what am I 4-bet bluffing, and how do those ratios of bluffs to value add up? Am I balanced? Balance is a lot more important in cash, because you're going to be playing at the same stack depth with the same people a lot more in the future. You're not going to get move table, the stack depth isn't going to change as much. And so you do need to, the third thing I would say is that you really need to care about balancing your range against regulars. Like, it's not, you can't just think in a vacuum. Like in a tournament, you might think, okay, spots don't come up that often for me to do things, and so this guy's opened and I've got 8-5 offsuit. I think I've got a load of fold equity here due to my recent image and the fact that I've just joined this table and not done very much, and I'm desperate and I need to make a 3-bet to build my stack. So you might 3-bet 8-5 offsuit. We never 3-bet 8-5 offsuit in cash really ever, because we're aware of the fact that our long-term game and the 3-bet number on our HUD depends on what hands we choose to 3-bet bluff with. And if we choose to 3-bet bluff that wide, just because it's plus EV in a vacuum, we decrease future fold equity and we stop people folding to us in the future, basically. So in cash, you're a lot more aware of your long-term image and your long-term EV and balance.
Oh, excellent. Well, that explains why I didn't really understand GTO and balanced ranges at first. It took a while, because they're not quite so applicable in tournaments.
No, tournaments are much more about vacuum EV and seizing, carpe diem, like seizing the moment to do something good in. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, just a small question, which is playing live cash. I see people sitting down with 20 big blinds, 30 big blinds. Well, what's the minimum stack you should sit down with seriously to play a cash game?
100 big blinds if it allows, because then you just have such an edge. Like, generally speaking, people listening to this and people who take poker more seriously will be better players than their opponents. So there's no real advantage to not being deep. So I mean, you can sit down with you can be a professional short stacker or whatnot and sit down with 20, 30, 40 BBs, but it will improve your game a lot more to play 100 deep. And if the game allows buying in even deeper, and there are bad players in the game, especially those that you have position on, you should buy in the table maximum if your bankroll and your mental game can handle it.
Okay, good stuff. Tourneys, I see regularly weak players at my club, but also I've seen it on telly, EPT tourneys, players making moves because they can rebuy. Especially at the weak players at my club, they'll make a call and they'll put their hand in their pocket and buy in again. But is it ever okay to have a rebuy strategy?
Yeah. I mean, in a rebuy tournament, you should have a rebuy strategy, because what you're basically trying to do is you're trying to weigh up the amount of money that you're on average going to be spending on multiple rebuys by your strategy, depending how aggressive that strategy is, and you're weighing that up against the chances of you creating a stack for yourself early on in the first rebuy phase that is going to succeed very often and get you to the final table and beyond, basically. So it is okay to be more aggressive in rebuy tournaments, but that's not to say that you can just be a complete idiot or a moron about it. And if you do play live rebuys, you see degenerate gamblers who could just be playing roulette or blackjack or whatever, or craps, who are actually just using the fact that it's a rebuy as an excuse to degen more money away. So yes, you want to be more aggro. Yes, you want to accept a lot more plus chip EV situations, and maybe even some slightly negative ones, because if you do double up, you're creating momentum that you can snowball by stacking all the other people who are trying to do the same thing, and you can snowball into a really big stack in a rebuy. But you can't take hugely minus EV spots and just say it's a rebuy, therefore I can do this.
Okay. Interesting. Multi-tablers. Yeah, we all find them. Some playing 20 tables in a tournament and obviously cash as well. Strong players usually, but playing, they're limiting their ability slightly by being multi-tablers.
Yeah.
What are the tactics to exploit them?
Well, these players, if they're good, will not be that exploitable, because they'll have, especially pre-flop, they'll have very set GTO-based ranges where they are not overfolding, they're not overcalling. If anything, the reason these players, if they're good, don't make as much money as a lesser tabling reg does is because they don't spot and take advantage of unbalances in other people's games. So they're not as quick to make exploitative adjustments to take advantage of fish, to take advantage of other weaker regs who are unbalanced. But their game themselves will be pretty balanced. However, there's another breed of multi-tabling reg who's very common at the micros, and that's the kind of net reg that plays 18-14, folds his blinds 90%, just steal, 3-bet wide and polar, apply pressure, bluff more, and these players are just autopiloting, folding far too much. So at the micros, the 20 tabling guy who has really tight stats, you've got tagged your net color, just kill him, abuse him, take all the little pots. Against the guy who's better, who you run into higher up, there's not really that much you can do. You can maybe just the case that he won't notice your unbalances, so you can get away with more. You can get away with 3-bet bluffing other players in the pot a bit more when he's behind you and stuff like that, because he won't realise. But in terms of you playing directly against him, he should be formulating his ranges in such a way that you can't just exploit him right off the bat, if he's good.
Excellent. Okay. Stars or Sky Poker, i.e., do you play to improve or play for profit?
Well, I mean, I don't know. This is a difficult question. I think it's quite subjective. I prefer stars because I think I can still have a win rate. Well, I can still have a win rate playing 50 NL and 100 NL on stars. So I don't really see a reason. I mean, I could probably make a lot more money playing Sky Poker, but I think I'd enjoy the experience a lot less because the software would frustrate me. I couldn't play as many tables. I couldn't have a HUD. I enjoy those elements of poker. But if I did want to actually go out and make as much, if I wasn't coaching mainly for a living and stuff like that, and I wanted to go out and make as much money as I could, I might well play Sky Poker. For the beginner, to answer your question a bit more directly, because I know what you're really getting at here, should they dedicate their time to profit or to improving? Well, you will still improve playing Sky Poker. It's not that you won't. It's just that when you do move up, you'll find yourself less well prepared than you will if you played a bit on stars. I mean, I think everyone should play on the site that they enjoy the most and the site that fulfills their goals. If your goal is just to get better and enjoy it, then play on stars. If your goal is literally just to maximize your BB per 100, play on Sky Poker. But stars also offers you much higher volume because you can play more tables, you can play Zoom, and just get like 1,000 hands in an hour instead of like 300. So even if your BB per 100 is higher on Sky Poker, your hourly could still be higher on Stars due to the higher volume that you can play there, especially if you table select well. The games are faster and stuff, and also if you play Zoom in soft pools at good times of the day and stuff like that. It's not an absolute fact that you'll always make more money on Sky Poker. You will have a higher BB per 100 though, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I've got very frustrated every time I've gone on Sky Poker, really, with the software and the availability of games. So come back to Stars every time, even though I probably don't make as much money.
Yeah, same here. It's a shame because Stars is kind of going downhill. It's turning into more of a casino-based site, which is a real shame because it was just the pioneer in online poker for so long. Really treated its customers very well. Less so these days, unfortunately, but the fact is it's still just miles above these other sites, which if they could just modernise to the extent that Stars does and offer a similar aesthetic service, I think we would see less of a monopoly and we'd see a lot more lucrative games that people actually wanted to play.
Yeah, maybe we'll see the birth of a new site soon.
I hope so, yeah.
That'd be good, wouldn't it? Well, I've only got two more questions. They're both silly, simple, sort of one-line answers, really. So the first is, you're playing heads up for $1 million. Mm-hmm. Do you play Ivy or Negreanu?
Negreanu, definitely. Because he's not, in my opinion, he's not that great a cash player, particularly a heads-up player. I think Negreanu would be ridiculously unbalanced. Both are like fish in terms of like modern-day online heads-up, right? If they sat down, either of those guys sat down at like a 1 million like equivalent cash game heads-up arena, like the regs would be jumping by the dozen, like chomping at the bit to play with either of them because they are huge fish in this context, even Ivy these days. But Negreanu has probably always been a huge fish in terms of heads-up cash, so I would fancy my chances against Negreanu. People are going to hate on me for that and be like, no, you're just like a 100 NL player and like a guy that coaches micros, so you couldn't beat Negreanu. But honestly, if he sat online with me and I had my full HUD running and I was like started off just balanced and observed the ways that he was unbalanced, I think I could maybe beat him. But I don't know. I don't want to like say that for sure because I'll get hated on by like loads of Negreanu fans. But I choose Negreanu any day. Any
day. What about if it was a tournament situation?
So probably still choose Negreanu. I mean, okay, he is probably a much better tournament player than I am, especially live tournaments. But I think Ivy is just far too talented a poker player for me to want to like go up against him in a format that I'm not best at. I think I'd still just about do better against Negreanu. I could be wrong though.
Okay. And the final one, World Series of Poker, first hand, it's a trip of a lifetime. Player open shoves into your ace, your last to act. Can you ever fold?
No.
And how about king?
Probably not, no.
Okay.
I mean, I'll elaborate a little bit on that last question. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous because you're so deep in the World Series main event. Like, if someone just ships like 10,000 when blinds are like 25, 50, it's kind of crazy. I might consider folding king actually, and obviously ace, like this is a golden opportunity to double up your stack. This is amazing. You have like 80% equity against every hand. Folding would be absurd. With king, I don't know. I mean, it could. I don't know. It's weird. I don't think I would in practice, but I could be convinced if I knew something about the player. Like if they were like old, they were like an old man in a cowboy hat. I'd probably fold king. If it was like some drunk guy like just drinking like rum and cokes and shouting, I wouldn't. So I would need to with king. I'd fold everything else worse than kings. With kings, I would need to look at the player type and decide based on live image and stereotyping, which is, you know, not 100% accurate, but stereotypes do exist for a reason. They are semi-accurate in the same way that player typing with your HUD online is. So I would look into that, basically. It's like online, if a 45-25 fish shoved 100 BBs, I would call with queens probably, but I would never do that if it was like a 17-15.
Yeah, that question comes, by the way, from a book I read, a conversation between Phil Hellmuth and Mike Mattisay, when they discussed that they started off discussing that they could fold ace first hand in the World Series of Poker, but then they ended up agreeing that they wouldn't. But,
I mean, I don't see why you would. Like, surely that's just terrible. Like,
yeah, I think they eventually agreed that it was. They just think they've got so much advantage moving on with the stack that to take any risk of losing it in the first hand But they did agree in the end that they would both call.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a humongous advantage, and you do have to get all in frequently in a tournament. You're going to have to win a tournament, you're going to have to like take 60-40s and win them later. So if you're not taking like an 85-15 or an 80-20 to double up at the start of the tournament, you're doing it wrong. Helmuth also once famously tried to claim that Ace-King offsuit had more equity than Ace-King suited all in pre-flop against whatever hands, and was completely wrong. So, I mean, I wouldn't read too much into things that guys like Helmuth and Mattisau say. They're not actually that great at poker. There, I said it.
Yeah. Right. That's it. Fantastic. That's all my questions. Thanks. Great answers.
Awesome, Steve. Thanks for coming on the show. Really good questions. And we will check in with you again in the future, I'm sure, and see how you're doing. And we'll continue this. We'll continue this show in the weeks to come and hopefully get some other students on there for you guys. So this has been the Carrot Poker Podcast. If you're looking for a coach in the new year, just check out that site you can see on YouTube there, carrotcorner.com, if you're watching on YouTube, or just go there if you're watching iTunes and email me if you have any suggestions for my show or any inquiries about coaching at admin@carrotcorner.com. See you guys on the next podcast.